Hey everybody, it is John the Comic Guy, and today we are actually not going to talk about comic books. We're going to talk about vinyl records. It is a blistering hot day out today. I think it's like 95 out, and my pool is 92. And a guy contacted me and said they had some records for sale. I went over there, and I'll tell you, the two records, as I was just quickly flipping through it, was a Steely Dan album and the first Led Zeppelin record. And at that point, I said, fine, let's just do the deal. So let's go through the records that I am keeping from today's collection. The first is KC and the Sunshine Band. This is what album is this? It's one of the more recent ones. Who Do You Love? I don't think this had a lot of hits. I think it had 3 singles that they tried, but I'm looking forward to listening to it. I did not have it. In fact, most of the records today, all the records today, are actually none of them are upgrades. Some of them keep an extra copies, and some of them are most of them are brand new. While I think everybody could agree, they know I like rock, heavy metal, pop, but you know what? I can enjoy some disco as well. And this particular disco record, I love the fact that some of my compilation disco records from like K-Tel, this one happens to be from Springboard. But notice, Hold the Line, right? So you have YMCA, La Freak, and Hold the Line from Toto. I was unaware of that Toto song being considered disco, but I'm gonna enjoy listening to that record. Another disco record from this collection is Disco Hallelujah. I don't know if you could really see the details, but this is a beautiful cover. Really, really a great cover. If the music on here matches the beauty of the cover, I think we're going to have a great listening experience. But Disco Hallelujah. It was sold at this record department for 99 cents. Gotta love it with shrink and a sticker still on there. I think you all know I just keep that shrink on. Hasn't ever warped any of my records. Now, this record, I don't know if you ever saw the Gary Busey movie of Buddy Holly, but I did not realize this was the first record until I saw this album. But as it says plainly, this is the first Buddy Holly album, The Chirping Crickets. I am really curious on how this sounds. Ever since I saw that movie with Gary Busey, I've been a big Buddy Holly fan, so I'm looking forward to listening to this. I do like Bad Company. And this album is brand new to me. So Run With the Pack, I have no idea what to expect with it. I am guessing this is one of their newer, more recent albums. But hey, I like Bad Company, and I'm looking forward to listening to this and at least giving it a shot. Never had that before. Now this album is a funny one because I even looked up how to pronounce it. And they said it's really unpronounceable. It's like AOXDI. Hey, but I like the Grateful Dead. I'm not a massive Grateful Dead fan, but the point I like about the Grateful Dead is there are a lot of loyalists out there. And every so often I'll get a record buyer in my garage and he's like, do you have any Grateful Dead records? And at that point, I pull out my stash, and sometimes they make me make me offers I cannot refuse. So I'm going to keep it. I'm going to give it a listen, and certainly the cover art rocks, right? You got to love the psychedelic cover art. Here's a Grateful Dead album I actually did have, Shakedown Street. So again, I'm keeping it. This one is a near mint minus, a VG Plus near mint minus cover and vinyl. Sometimes you just can't go wrong, and it's just good for me to hold on to because ultimately people do end out asking me for Grateful Dead records. This is an album I had multiple copies of. I still have multiple copies of it, but I think I want to keep one more copy. It's not a pristine album. This vinyl, I believe, is VG plus. The cover is probably VG minus, but you know, if I have 2 or 3 copies of this, I'll just hold one more aside. And again, I do have constant Beatles collectors that end up buying any of my extra records out. So I'm going to hold on to it just like I do the Grateful Dead, because you never know. And in the meantime, it sits safely in my collection. But I guess you can't go wrong with Beatles and Let It Be. This is an album that's brand new to me. I have a few of their albums. ZZ Top. I love ZZ Top. In fact, I would say probably in the mid to late, no, late 80s, very early 90s, they were my favorite band. So I'm going to ask you, which version of ZZ Top do you like? Do you like the original Jammin' ZZ Top? Or do you like the 80s, more popish ZZ Top? You probably are not going to be surprised when you hear from me that I like the popish version. So when Eliminator came out, Afterburner, Recycler, that was sort of the time that I really loved them the most. And I think their albums sound so good. But I like all the ages of ZZ Top. So I'm happy to have their first album. So when I saw this collection, I was doing a quick flip through. Again, I mentioned I saw a Steely Dan album and I saw the Led Zeppelin first album. That just triggered me to say I'm going to buy the collection. The first Led Zeppelin album copy that I flipped through really quick, it was a little rough. This was actually a pretty dirty collection. It had a lot of cover wear. And I think I'm keeping some of the more higher end records. It just so happens that I needed them. But this happens to be the second copy of the Led Zeppelin album, the first album that I saw. And this is a beautiful copy. I have, I think, some of the earlier pressings, and I believe the earlier pressings have the orange lettering. This is a yellow lettering, but again, I like multiple pressings. This is actually probably the nicest condition copy I have, but again, I believe the yellow depicting that it's a later pressing. But hey, I'm gonna keep it, and I have one to sell as well, a little dirtier copy to sell. But what are you gonna do? Now, my favorite Led Zeppelin album was in this collection. Can you guess? Physical Graffiti. I love this record. I already have this record, and actually this is a downgrade because while the cover does look good, one of the records was scratched. I didn't spin clean anything yet, but one of the records here was scratched. I'm going to keep it, and this is actually only my second copy of this album. The reason I'm going to keep it is because when I'm buying collections, sometimes I might find a beautiful copy of the first record, and the cover is a little worn, and then I could kind of marry them, but I'm just happy to own. I love Physical Graffiti. It is my favorite Led Zeppelin album. So now, the last two copies, I actually had to reach out to my buddy, Jackie Schultz. She and her husband, Bill, really are kind of my Rolling Stone subject matter experts, right? I think they last saw them when they were at MetLife Stadium just this year. Jackie has been seeing them back since the 80s, and they've been her favorite band. It's kind of funny too, but both her and Bill were both seeing them at the same time before they actually were dating back in the 80s, and they were at multiple Stones concerts together. So when I need to find out a little bit more about a certain album with the Stones, I go right to Jackie and Bill, and and maybe I'm going to have him as a guest on the show. If I ever get a collection with a lot of Stones, I think having some subject matter experts on the topic would be helpful. But I never had a copy of Metamorphosis, and Jackie today said, "John, that's a compilation album." So it's some of their earlier stuff, but so thank you, Jackie, for your information. I think this is a cool cover. It's a little grotesque, right, with the insects, but I'm a comic guy. I love the artwork on this. So Metamorphosis is a brand new Stones album in my collection. I love it. The other album I reached out to her about because it was slightly different than the other covers I have. I have a mono and a stereo version of this album already. However, I found out that what I have is the US pressings. I have never owned a UK pressing, and this actually has a slightly different playlist. I'm looking forward to listening to this. Yeah, I do always enjoy having foreign copies. So, UK pressing, Aftermath, I am delighted. And matter of fact, a little bit of research I did on the internet, people are saying that this is a better copy um, than a better pressing than the U.S. version. So I look forward to listening to it. I enjoy having UK pressings. I actually have a couple of records. I actually have Russian pressings, which I find cool. But anyway, this is, I think, for me, the keeper of the day out of my collection, out of this collection that I got. Aftermath, UK Decca pressing. So everybody, I thank you for joining me today. If you like this content, whether you're a comic fan or you're a vinyl fan, I would encourage you to please hit the subscribe button. I really enjoy you joining me in this community, and if you're a record person and you haven't seen any of my other videos, I have a few that are touching upon vinyl, and I'm going to continue to show these videos when I find good collections too. So I want to thank you all for joining me today. I really hope you stick with me and you hit the subscribe button. Jackie and Bill, thank you for your feedback and your subject matter expertise. I really always appreciate you guys. And I will talk to you all soon. Thanks.